Welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Elizabeth A. Horseshoe. I am the founder and CEO of Nurse Exec Innovations, a resilience, leadership coaching, and global health consulting firm that offers premier expertise, strategies, and gives individuals and healthcare organizations a competitive edge to be successful in the healthcare industry. I am also the curator of the platform titled Pass the Mic. Some of you are probably saying, what is Pass the Mic? Who is Pass the Mic? Well, Pass the Mic has been curated since July 2019. Yes, you heard that correct. Pass the Mic is a platform designed specifically for visionaries, advocates, game changers looking to execute their global footprints into society in the areas of healthcare, business, education, technology, culture, music, and so much more. Today, I am delighted because we have a special guest here. She hails all the way from Virginia. She's
Yes.
a Hampton graduate. Did you graduate
No,
from
VCU.
Hampton?
No, Virginia Commonwealth University.
Oh, okay. All right. Close enough. And she's also my esteemed Soror of Chi Eta Phi Sorority Incorporated. She's also the president of her chapter down in Virginia, as well as being the founder and CEO of Serenity Healthcare Consultants. And she has recently published at the top of the year, I believe, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but she also wrote the book called A Prayer Time, A Mother's Devotion Towards the End of Life. I believe I said that right. Okay.
Yeah, well, Chronicles is a long title.
I'll let you.
Devotion. Yes.
Okay, I'll let you drum roll and introduce. So tonight we are going to be talking about journeying through grief. Yes, you heard that correctly. The title is called Journeying Through Grief. And what really truly inspired me to reach out to this wonderful expert in that area, as you've just heard, she wrote a book. So when you write a book, you have now become the expert in that subject. So I may not necessarily have written a book, but I've gone through the motions in regards to my mother passing away in this month of December, which was December 24th, 2002, which was Christmas Eve. So we're going to go in and we're going to talk. We're going to have a wonderful, crucial conversations about the taboo, especially talking about grief, talking about death and dying, talking about what the stages look like, talking about how to really be an overcomer, finding out new traditions, what are the testimonies, all of that great stuff, because I can speak because I'm a Black woman, and we have Jacqueline, who's also a Black woman. Black people, we don't like to talk about, death and dying and grieving, living will, durable power of attorney. I mean, I could probably call you back on for several more Pass the Mics because I know we're not going to be able to touch every single thing. But first and forehand, I want to lean in and welcome you. And I want you to share with the audience, those that are watching live and those that are catching the replay. You can share with them briefly because they can always go to your website, right? But if
Okay.
you could share
Yes.
with them where you graduated, where you hail from, anything that you'd like to share briefly, so we can jump right into the crucial conversation.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. Congratulations on your endeavors as well with your Past Life series. And thank you for just having me during this time, even with your mom passing. And it's coming up on her anniversary for you. So you do have my condolences as you continue to heal. My name is Jacqueline
Thank
Claude. I am the founder and CEO of Serenity Healthcare Consulting Firm. I've been a registered nurse for over about 21 years. I'm originally from Suffolk, Virginia, graduated from Virginia Commonwealth University School of Nursing. Then I went on and got my master's of science in public health from Water University online. I wanted to start a firm, Serenity Healthcare Consulting Firm, that focused on process improvement and leadership development. Because I've been a nurse manager for over 12 years, and I know the hardship of being a middle manager is very a difficult position, but is a rewarding position because you're leading change, you're impacting your staff lives, and you're improving patient care on your unit. But it takes strategy and it takes mentorship and it takes knowing how to do process improvement. So with my consulting firm, I want to be able to leverage on my experience and to help empower future nurse leaders and also to develop healthcare contracts to do process improvement based on the wealth of experience that I have. I was a travel nurse. I worked in psych, managed a family birth center. So I have a wealth of information that I'm now in my life where I want to give back, and I want to give back on a larger platform to continue to elevate the plane of nursing. So I try to
Awesome. Thank you so
compile everything
much.
together.
So, oh, that's okay. Yeah. Hey, when you're on a platform, it's time to, share and that's the thing about with nursing, and especially in my experience with the coaching, um, throughout in our education, we're not taught to really edify ourselves. We're taught to be, other things, but we're not taught to empower each other, and that's very commendable that you've identified that problem and now you are a solution to that problem, because we need more. Not only do we need more leaders that are gracious and compassionate and an expert in their field and desire to up level themselves, but we need
Right.
more people in leaders, true leaders.
True.
So I just wanted to kind of, yes, right, you agree, yeah, because
Yes.
what I'm finding on my end is that that's what made me develop the resilience leadership
Mhm.
coaching. Initially it started off with focusing on nursing, but I felt that it needed to be more specific, because we, in different seasons of our life, we are going to identify some obstacles in which we need to learn how to overcome and bounce back. And that's
Right.
and that's what's happening across the gamut, not only in just in nursing, the staff nursing, the middle level, the executive level, but even the healthcare organizations. But that'll be another pass the mic. I can invite you in another. We'll have another discussion. But I just really wanted to kind of lean in. Congratulations to you. And is it your sister's name, Sandra Claude? Am I
Yes.
saying
Sandra
that
Claude.
correct?
Yes. Yes.
Is your sister's name
Yes.
Sandra?
Sandra Claude.
Okay, Sandra Clark. So you
Yes.
both co-published it.
Yes.
So kind
We
of
the book
lean in
actually
and,
got
share
published.
with the audience and those that will catch the replay.
Okay. Well, the
Go
book
ahead.
actually was published last year. And the way I found out, my nephew actually passed last year. We had his homegoing service on November the 16th, and that is the same time our book was published on November the 16th. My nephew was 45 years old, so that
Wow.
was near and dear to my heart.
Wow.
What inspired me to want to write the book was first,
Wow.
I forgot to say this, I'm the youngest of 18 children. It's 16 of us living. One passed on, well, it was a set of twins, and one of the twins passed, and my brother was murdered. So when I was 16 years old, I actually went into a state of depression that lasted for about a year. So what inspired me to, as I
Okay.
grew further in my life, I pulled back on that experience when I was 16 years old, and having a mother that was deep in faith. My father passed when I was 10. So constant tragedy, 10 years old, my father passed, 16 years old, my brother was murdered. Still to this day, it's been an unsolved mystery. It's a cold case that was very, very
Oh.
tragic. But it was the love of my mother that actually pushed me through because I gave up on life. I wasn't going to go to nursing school. I was going to stay home,
Mm.
work at a gas station. I was going to be on welfare. I just
Mm-hmm.
gave up hope. But it was just that 1 year of my mom just constantly praying for me,
Mm.
constantly encouraging me. And I decided to go to nursing school. But coming around in 2020, 1999,
Mm-hmm.
my mother passed. And she was my cheerleader. She was the person who pushed me to do things that I didn't believe that I could do. Right before she passed, she said, Jackie, because I wanted to give up in nursing school. And she was like, Jackie, don't, because I really do believe that you're called to be a nurse. And so that has what really encouraged me through my journey not to give up. And so many times when people hit a hard place in life, that's the automatic response is give up, run. I too used to be a runner. I too used to give up, but I realize now that's not the answer because the thing that you're running from is the thing that you need to run into because it's going to make you a better person. So, wanting to write this book, I
Me
wanted
too.
to just leverage on the
Amen.
love and the faith that my mom not only instilled in me, but she instilled in all her children. Even when she was on hospice, she knew her children's birthdays, her grandchildren's birthdays. She would still read her words. So, she still had her right mind, but she went on to be with the Lord. And I just wanted to
Yes.
capture her writings because that's what inspired me. And I wanted those writings to inspire others. So me and my sister, we took her writings and we created a journal and then we
Okay.
did a synopsis for each chapter. And then we reached out to some of our other brothers and sisters to be able to add to
Mm-hmm.
it. Because now this becomes part of our history. And we added pictures because in dealing with grief, being able to journal and being able to collect your thoughts, because sometimes everybody might not understand what you're going through. But when you have a place where you can collect your thoughts and house your thoughts, and then later on in life, you can come back and unpack those thoughts, right? It really does work.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Christmas time
Mm-hmm.
sometimes is difficult for me because this was my mom's favorite holiday. My mom actually passed January the 1st, 1999. My
Mm-hmm.
birthday is December the 30th. The Lord
Yes.
actually showed me in a
My
dream
mom
before
too.
she passed that
Yeah.
she was going to pass. I didn't want to believe it, but it really did happen.
Mm.
And I look back now, I
Mm.
thank God that I had the time to be with her on
Mm-hmm.
hospice. The hospice nurses were great. They walked us through the dying process.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they was there to answer our questions. And she wasn't in pain. She wasn't suffering. So that's what gives me the hope and peace when I look back on it, because it's been almost like 24, 25 years since my mom been gone. And when I hit milestones in my life, it's difficult. Like my graduation from
Yes.
college, she wasn't there. But my grandmother, who was 94 at the time, promised me, she said, Jackie, I'm going to be there if I got to be there in a wheelchair or oxygen. She was in both, but she promised me and she was there on behalf of my mother. So having those people in my life is what has helped to sustain me. And my faith in God is what continues to propel me.
Awesome. So can I lean in? There was very important piece that you shared, and it kind of resonates with me. You
Mhm,
said the things that you were a runner.
mhm.
You said you were a runner.
Yes,
And you said the things that you used to run away from. Just listen, just hear me out. The things that you used to run away from, those are the things that you needed to run to. And
correct.
I heard that loud and clear because just like you just shared, there are going to be waves of grief and times and milestones. And I think back to 2021 where it was a major milestone, not just only for me, but for
Mhm,
my twin sons. And they were graduating. And I just felt like, wow, this is something that, and I can be very transparent. My mother had me late. My mother had
Mm.
me at 45.
Me
At least I
too,
should say
48.
culturally. I don't think she had me late. She had, yeah, I don't feel that she had me late. I just feel that that's when God designed for her to have me.
Correct.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yes. Hmm.
Culturally, people would say 45 was late.
Right.
But she was well, with it and everything. So I say all that to say she's the one, her prayers, her ability to edify and to always see the brighter side of life the was always the fuel and the fire that kept me going.
Hmm.
But I say all that to say about the running away. You can't run away. You have to deal with your fears. Fears is limiting beliefs, is
Hmm.
limitation. Faith is what liberates you. Faith is what liberates you. And
Hmm.
I had to realize that it is the faith. And you shared about how you and your sister and your brothers and the writings of your mother with the faith. Faith will wipe out everything else. You have to lean
Everything.
into faith. So the question I'm going to ask next is, and thank you for sharing and being transparent, with your brother being murdered. What
Yes.
emotions were you experiencing or feeling at that time at the age of 16?
Very tragic. Like I wanted to commit suicide. Just gave up on life, just feelings of hopelessness. Because he was my best friend. So I lose my father when I'm 10. So I'm the baby of the family. So pretty much everybody had the opportunity to grow up with my father, except for me. Like I said, he passed when I was 10 years old. So throughout my whole life, I didn't realize why I was so aggressive. So it took failed relationships for me to realize I became what I couldn't forgive, because I had seen my father being abusive towards my mother growing up. And so I carried those hurts. Then here come my brother gets murdered, the one who always looked out for me, because we was close in age, 2 years apart. So some people said I was like his second twin, because he always looked out for me. But he was murdered when he was 18 years old.
Okay.
So I just felt like I just wanted to give up. Didn't want to live anymore. But God spared my life, and I'm glad He did, because I have a story and a testimony to be a blessing to others who might be experiencing the same, but just to let them know there's a way out and there's hope and you have a purpose.
Yes, thank you. So then that was your brother. Now share with me what that looked like emotion wise with your dad. Was there a lot of, you mentioned, and thank you for being transparent, because some people would really, they feel that they've arrived to a certain stature, certain levels, certain
No.
status, certain degrees, certain credentials, and everybody has a story, and this is why
Mhm.
I created this platform, because people that are willing to share their stories and to inspire others is very important. So share with me, you didn't mention about your father was abusive towards your mother. Now your father passes away. What did that
Mhm.
look like? What kind of emotions were toiling inside of you? Because everything is an inside job and then it comes on the out. So
I think it was more
what were
so.
you
I think it was.
experiencing and how did you deal with that?
I think it was a more so a delayed response, because
Excuse
I
me.
had my mom and I had my brothers and sisters who lived at the house with us. So I think I had their comfort and love, but it wasn't until later on in life, as I'm getting
Okay.
older, and all the people that I was leaning on not there anymore. So now I have to face this unresolved hurt. And a lot of times in life, that's why like relationships or friendships don't work, because we carry unresolved hurt and we transpose that pain onto others who
That
is
part.
not really for them.
Can you
But
say it again? Can you
when we
say
have
that?
unresolved, yeah, when we have unresolved hurt
Say
or
that
pain,
again.
when we have unresolved hurt or pain, we inadvertently transpose those feelings onto others, which impacts our relationship or friendship from not working, because we haven't went back and dealt with the pain. And so I had to learn that later on through life. And mine was failed relationships, this relationship not working, that relationship not working. And then I had to step back and say, okay, so is it them or is it me? And I realized, yeah, they weren't meant for me, but I still had to learn from it. If they say, hey, Jackie, you're demanding or you bossy, I said, well, wait a minute, let me figure out why. And the Lord just revealed to me I was on a travel assignment. I never forget. I needed to forgive my father. 21, I think 25 years old. My father passed when I was 10. I've been carrying that weight that long. And the Lord was like, you need to forgive your father because I hadn't forgiven him. I hadn't really, like when he passed, I didn't cry because I was angry. So sometimes when we talk about the different stages of grief, sometimes people can be in one stage for 20 years and never go through all the stages because why? We don't want to deal with it because it hurts too much.
Yes.
But the longer that you don't deal with it, the worse it is. And so when I forgave my father, I released that burden, I released that pain, and I was able to be filled with love. I was able to be filled with memories of the good times that I had with my father growing up because I had to forgive that because I became what I couldn't forgive. I became my father because I said he was, mean or whatever. I became that. So I took on the very thing that I couldn't forgive. That's the power of forgiving when unforgiveness. But when you forgive it, you release that burden, that black cloud. And that's what happened. I was released from that black cloud. I said, God, how do I ask for forgiveness? And he's already passed. And the Lord said, ask me. And so that's what I did. And immediately I felt like reassurance. So now I can have conversations. I can even do this and talk about my father without getting angry or without getting upset and realizing I had a good father, good, bad, and different. The things that he went through in life doesn't make it right what he did, but he also had tragedy in his life as well. So looking back, I can appreciate my father and love him for who he was, even though I only had him for 10 years, but they was the 10 best years.
Correct. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. So just I wanted to lean in just in case there's someone watching in the audience or catching the replay. Just stick with me because this is how I learned the Elizabeth Kubler-Ross's stages of death and dying. So daddy always buys dull appliances. So you got denial, then you got bargaining, then you got anger, then you got dull. What is the other D? I can't think.
You go denial, like you rationalize denial, you rationalize,
anger,
and you begin to accept.
Bargaining, grief, and analyzing. Go ahead.
Mm-hmm. No, I'm saying you begin to. I think as you said, anger. You begin to rationalize. You try to come to an understanding, right? And then you begin to accept. Okay, this is where we at in the grief stage. This is it. I'm going to accept. And then you get to the healing stage. But even though you get to the healing stage, it doesn't mean that you're never going to have memories. It doesn't mean that you're never going to cry because you're going to cry because your tears are actually a source of healing. They come to heal you because you're releasing that pain through your tears.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Correct. So thank you for sharing that. So as we mentioned before, you have denial, you have bargaining, people go back and forth. And the thing people need to understand, that whole denial and bargaining and anger and the grief and then acceptance, you can, just like we have the different seasons of, you have spring, summer, fall, winter. It's the same seasons. There can be certain seasons where you are just in such a state of grief. And then there's other seasons where you're just in a very good space and you're accepting. And then there are times that things will come up, whether it's something that is happening at work or it's something happening in a relationship, you go back to anger. But like Jacqueline said, as long as you can talk about it with a healed tongue and you can release the anger through the tears. And then most important, as you mentioned with your journaling, I also wrote besides writing the book, but I also wrote a journal for people to have guided thoughts and
Yes.
a lot of inspirational affirmations, as well as some songs that have been
Hmm.
very inspirational and healing and helping for myself. I share in this journal, as well as I have the book. But I just wanted to share. It's people take it for granted. They think that writing in a book is like a diary, and
Right.
it's very cathartic, it's very healing, because whatever you write, you can actually come back to it 30 days from now or a year
Hmm.
from now, and realizing how puzzles of pieces of the puzzle came together.
Right.
So thank you so much for being transparent. So when you reflect back to that moment in time in regards to your mom passing, let's talk about the emotions of, you mentioned how you felt when your brother passed, your dad passed. Now, what did that look like for you? Because a mother's, there's a relationship between everybody, right? I can relate to talking about my mother passing, what that felt like. I can talk about what my father, when he passed, what that felt like. And I can also relate. I may not have had, I'm an only child, but I may not have had a blood sister, but I have
Hmm.
a best friend that I grew up with that passed away 5 years, literally 3 months before my father passed. So I had to deal with two deaths like within three months apart, and really trying to cope with what that looked like, because you have your father. For me, I had my father that lived to 80, and then I had my best friend who didn't even see 45. So what did that look like? How old were you in 99? And I know how old I was, but how old
I
were
had just,
you? And what did that look like for you? Because your relationship with your mother, some people have
yeah.
better relationships with their father, their grandmother, whomever. But what did that emotion, because for me, on December 24th, 2002, I felt like, my mother loved, just like your mother loved Christmas, my mother loved
Mhm.
Christmas. But
Yeah.
now I'm in a healed place to understand why she was taken up
Hmm.
around Christmas. But at that time, I felt like if you were in New York City, right, and all the lights went out, that's how I felt that day. I felt like all the lights went out, and I was just in a black hole, and I just wanted to stay under the covers and never come out. And
Yeah.
I really had to pray.
Yes,
I
that's,
wasn't as, what did you have to do? Yeah,
I was totally distraught. That was my
go ahead.
birthday. I just turned 21 years old. And to not have my mom there with me, like she was my best friend. We talked about everything. I was with her. Like I said, I'm the baby. So whenever my family or my dad would go places, I was always left at home with my mom. So I think I became my mom's keeper, because she shared a lot with me, that she didn't share with the other children. And I believe that when she passed, that mantle was passed on to me, because even though I'm the baby of the family, I'm like the mother of the family, because it's, what does Jackie say? Well, what is Jackie gonna do? So I believe that mantle was passed on to me from my mother. My feelings, I was distraught. Um, I felt like my world's coming to an end. I didn't know what to do. So it was that moment where I decided I'm gonna give my life to God. I'm gonna take everything that she taught us. I knew it worked. I just didn't want to do it then. I was
Mm.
going to do it later on in life. I just didn't want to do it right then, because I wanted to do my own thing. But that's what actually really caused me to give my life to God and to have a closer walk with God, than what I had before. And that has sustained me all these years of
Mhm.
my life, through my ups and my downs. I'm not perfect, but God keeps me, and lets me know that I have a testimony to share and to be a healing to so many others, to let them know there's a way out.
Yes, yes. Thank you. Because where I was the exact opposite. I don't know if it's because you came from a larger family.
Hmm.
It was just me and my dad
Yeah.
and um a lot of what is it the word I'm looking for? A lot of open questions
Hmm.
there's a lot of questioning of how did this happen because it was unexpected. My mother had passed at 75. She just passed in her sleep, which to be honest was the
Hmm.
best way that she would always wanted to go. But I was only 30 years old and I had just bought my first house, and it was my first Christmas, and was going through the motions. But when I look back, and I'm going to ask you your question about reflection, when I look back at that time, I was very much into looking to purchase angels that year. Not knowing that my mother was going
Oh.
to become an angel in a matter of days as I was
Hmm.
preparing for Christmas. So I was in a moment of a lot of anger, a lot of bitterness.
Hmm.
I remember turning about 39 and realizing that you got to let go of being angry and bitter and boxing with
Hmm.
God. Like there's a blessing on the other side of all of this. And what
Right.
I'm sharing, reason why I'm sharing this is that when you hold on to the bitterness, the anger, the
Hmm.
frustration, the hatred, the jealousy, whatever it is going on that's brewing in you, it can now fester and manifest into physical ailments, all
Hmm.
kinds of ailments. And it's just so important, as you mentioned earlier, to release,
Yes.
whether it's writing a letter.
Hmm.
I've had moments where I've had to write an open letter, and I've put it in a plastic bottle, almost like the water bottle I was just drinking, and just throw it into the sea. Have some moments where I'm dancing or talking. What have you done to help you go through the grieving process, when there were moments that you were maybe angry or upset, or the why? Everyone has asked
Right.
why at one point. I know for me, in the last few years, especially when I look back at my best friend and my dad, I don't ask the why anymore. I say, what am I learning from this? What am I supposed to teach? And one of the things that I learned my why was, um how can you help the next person,
Right.
not go through what you went through for so
Right.
many years. So what share as a tool or strategy, for a person that's going through grieving?
I would say for me, like the book says, is actually prayer time. Prayer has really helped me through. I don't think I ever really asked why. I was more so in denial that I didn't want to accept. So that was a difficult thing for me. But I realized that, God's will is always best, even when in the most difficult times, because throughout life, you're going to realize why this situation happened and why it occurred. And it's taught me to always tell people that you love them, because I didn't get a chance to tell my father I loved him. I really didn't say that to my brother a lot. So with my mom, it was different because I would tell her
Mm,
I loved her, and I showed that when I was able to start working, and when my sister would come home from the military, we would do a lot of things together. So I'm happy that I had those opportunities to spend with her, to go to Kings Dominion or go to the beach together, and run our feet in the water, like those memories. And there's certain things that I still do today, like certain times of the year or certain seasons, I will put up a Christmas tree. Sometimes I don't, but like this time I did. My friend reminded me, like, Jackie, we got to put up a tree. So she came over and helped me. We put the tree up. And I was like, wow, that helped me because it brings me a connection. Actually, cooking makes me feel connected to my mother. I usually like to cook when I have gatherings or my family comes over because it's a special moment, it's a special bond, and I can't really explain it, but it gives me a connection as if she's there with me. Because when I was little, she would show me how to cook stuff. Like, Jacqueline, come in here, let me show you. When she was serious, she called me Jacqueline. When she wasn't, she'll call me lady. But cooking, praying,
Aw.
doing things that I knew that she enjoyed doing, I actually do those same things, and it gives me peace. Writing, like journaling my thoughts, that really does help, and then just keeping her memory alive. In pictures, I love pictures, so that's what helps me, and continues to help me through this healing process, which hasn't been easy, but it's better. I'm able.
Awesome,
I'm
awesome. Yeah.
stable.
No, no, thank you for sharing. But you just mentioned some key things. You said love, and my mother was the epitome of live, love, and laughter. Like, she was a Haitian woman that loved to dance, loved to music and all that. And when you mentioned the love part, I am so glad, and I pray for anybody who's watching or catching the replay. If you're not taking your time or moments of on your loved ones, no one's promised tomorrow.
Right.
And we're only here as a passing wind, and
Right.
for a season. And one of the beauty, when I look back at that time, I remember I just told you I was just bought my house. I was working very hard, and I remember the Sunday, which was 2 days before she passed. She looked at me and she said, I admire that you're working so hard and you're achieving, but don't
Mhm.
ever forget God.
Yes.
And I looked at her, and I was just kind of like, I was kind of baffled, because it's not that I forgot God, but I was like, okay, I'm working, I just got this house, I'm trying
Mhm.
to achieve and make sure certain things are straight. But I get it now. I get it now. She wanted me to always stay spiritually grounded, spiritually
Mhm.
firm, because so that way, whatever would happen, I can always turn to the Lord. And believe me, it has been the Lord. Even though he and I were boxing and arguing, and I was screaming, even to write this book, Beyond the Vision. It was 2 years ago. I had a moment where I was really like having a tough time, and I smiled because I remember I was screaming. I was literally walking in through my house screaming and yelling and upset. And God just said in a very audible tone, write the book.
Mhm.
And it's just so important. I go back to the love piece. It's so important to tell your loved ones you love them,
Yeah.
because I'm so glad that the day before, which was the 23rd of December, we went out, we went shopping. We were, we're laughing, we were singing, and I told her I loved her. And that's something we always did, because she always would say, how they say in, scripture,
Mhm.
don't ever let the sun go down without saying you love somebody.
Right.
So it's so important, and I'm glad you shared that. But when you reflect back, is there anything that you would have done differently, or would you continue to be the same old Jacqueline lady, with all three, with your brother, with your father, with your mother? Is there anything that you would have done differently?
I think for my dad and my brother, tell them that I love them. I wish I would, did that more, because I didn't do that with my brother. Especially with brothers and sisters growing up, you play fight, but that's how we showed our love. But I never really had that chance to tell him that I love him. And my father never really said it either, but he showed me love. So he was a man of action, whereas my brother. So I wish I would have had more time to do that. I wish my father was here to see me grow up to become the young lady that he had desired for me to be. With my mom, maybe not give her such a hard time like I did when I was younger coming up, but she loved me all the same. I was her baby. Well, I was the baby of the bunch. I wanted to be the only one, but she was like, "No, Jackie, is 16 more. You the baby. I love all of you." So I would say for my mom, maybe not giving her a hard time, and then my brother and my father, to have had the opportunity to spend more time with them and tell them that I love them.
Okay, great. So if you can kind of just share with the audience and those that will catch the replay, any parting words in regards to journeying through the grieving process, anything that, any takeaways before we depart for tonight?
Yes, grief is a process. As not 1 year, there's no time on it. It's just a process. And the thing is to be true to yourself, allow yourself to go through those emotions, as difficult as it may be. Build yourself up with a supportive network, whether it's one or two people, or even get grief counseling. There are grief support groups that you can look up. Is their local different support groups, whether it's in your church group or whether it's an organization. There's help out there, but most of all, giving yourself time to cry, giving yourself time to be angry, to be upset, because that's normal. Because whether it's a loss of a loved one, loss of a job, there's a sudden separation that just changes your life. And now you're saying, how do I go on? Or how do I live? I can truly, truly say Psalms 23, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. That is so true, because yea, though you walk through the valley and the shadows of death, God is with you. It might seem like that he's not there, but he's there. And he takes us through these valley moments to build us up, to make us strong, to let us know that we can do all things and we can grow in him and through him. Write down your thoughts, even the smallest things. Like I'm helping my sister. She's working on a book as well too, where her son passed, and it's her oldest son, my nephew. She's working on a book. Writing really does help, like your book, Elizabeth, Beyond the Vision. If you don't have a vision, the people are going to perish. So that writing it down helps you to live out your now. It helps you to live out or provide the steps for someone else's future. So my takeaways is allow yourself to heal, allow yourself to go through the grieving processes, have at least one or two people in your supportive network that can really talk to you. Just being there for someone. There's always never perfect words to say, but your presence alone fills an empty room. Because that's where I can look back and says, "Oh, I don't remember all them people, but I
Yes,
remember
yeah.
certain people just being around me, just holding me, just let me cry out my pain." That's just what I needed. And then, like I said, getting grief support, because, like you said, in our community, the African American community, we don't really want to talk about a lot of stuff when it comes to health, mental health. We don't want to talk about grief, but it is real, because grief, if it continues to be unmet and unresolved, it leads to depression. And then that depression, if it gets serious enough, it leads to
Big
suicide.
time. Hmm.
Right. So it's a cycle. So if you can get that cycle early on, then you can help
Yeah.
prevent, episodes of depression. You can help prevent episodes of suicide. Like I said, there is help out there. So grief and mental health, they do work hand in hand. So there's help. That's what I want to leave with. There's help.
Yeah. No, it does. It does help. And I just want to kind of lean in with my thank you so much for those final
You.
parting words. And my final parting words to the audience and those that will catch the replay is that grieving doesn't make us imperfect. Grieving makes us human. And just like Jackie said, we have to feel the emotions. And I talk a lot about that. And, I have co-authors in this book that
Mhm.
share their testimonies. We have to feel those emotions.
Right.
We have to go through the process. We have to go through the stages. And most importantly, as you mentioned about the grieving that goes unmet can get manifest into suicide. It can
Right.
manifest into depression. It can manifest
Mhm.
into so many physical ailments in your body you would not even believe. There's a correlation. You can go and research it and look it up. But most importantly, I just wanted to share that a book that was very helpful to me. I did not necessarily, when I look back at that point in time when my mother passed, and if I knew a little bit more about therapy, I would have gone and pursued therapy because I
Yes.
really needed that at that time. But I did not have therapy because what were we told? For me, particularly growing up in the
Mhm.
Haitian culture, African culture, black black culture, period, is that we're supposed to pray it away. But I believe there's a
Mhm.
t-shirt that says you can have Jesus and the therapist. And
Mhm.
it's so important to have a therapist
Yes.
if you can. And there's all types of free opportunities. But I did
Mhm.
want to lead in because as we mentioned both of our books, you can get either one of our books. And we're not just sharing this because we're trying to, sell a retail value. It's
Right.
because we stand on our books. Our
Right.
books were divine downloads from above. But I do want to share a book, and this is not any author that I know. This is an author that helped me when my mother passed. I purchased a book because I was so depressed at the
Mhm.
time. And I thank God for the white woman that saw me in the bookstore, and I found enough strength to utter the words, "My mother just passed and I need a book on grieving."
Right.
And she brought me, she could have just left me at the main counter and just pointed me, but she sought enough to come from behind the counter, walked me down the aisle, showed me the section of books, and told me about the book by Carol Studebaker, A Time to Grieve.
Mhm.
So what is the best way to get in contact with you? And then um, we'll bid farewell for tonight.
Okay. Well, the best way you can get in contact with me, I have my website is www.serenityhealthcareconsultingfirm.com. That's my website. Email www.serenitynurseconsultant@gmail.com. I'm on Facebook, just a simple name, Jacqueline Claude. I'm also on LinkedIn, Jacqueline Claude. So I'm easy to find.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you so much and have a wonderful, blessed, and happy holidays. I wish you all the best with your Serenity Healthcare Consulting, and take care, everyone. Have a great night. Bye bye.
Thank you. And thank you for the opportunity.
Yes. Okay. All right.